Okay, so let's get started, and if you have any questions at any point, just stop me over there. Again today, and probably maybe half of the lecture next time, we'll kind of go over some recap of stuff. So today I'll basically do difference equations and linear algebra. So that's what I'll start with linear algebra, then do difference equation. The other item that's left as a recap is some MATLAB basics. So not sure if we want to do a recap of MATLAB, or I can just provide some online materials from my own course from NPTEL, and then you will handle it. But in any case, on the course website, I have put it's almost a 4-page document on some 40 really short questions on MATLAB. So this might take people who are used to MATLAB, it might take less than half an hour. People who are new to MATLAB but have used MATLAB might take an hour and a half, maybe not more. But people who are fully new to MATLAB, just go through that entire set of questions. They're simple, just building matrices, multiplying matrices, getting eigenvalues, extracting a submatrix from a matrix, that kind of stuff. So nothing majorly challenging, but those are the basics. So okay, so let's start today's lecture. The first part I'll cover linear algebra. So the entire week 1 is linear algebra again, but this is just to set the stage before we start week 1. So these are the basics that you already know mostly from your 11th and 12th grade class. If you have done this in undergrad, then you know a little bit more concepts than what I will talk about in the recap part. Okay, so some definitions. Scalars are just numbers. Okay, so a real number would be a real scalar. Integer is positive or negative integers, or 0, right? And this R is a set of real numbers, Z is a set of integers. Okay, Rn is a set of n dimensional real numbers. So that's what Rn is. So again, this is something that kind of you have done before, just recapping that. Okay. Only in this lecture I'm going to represent vectors using boldface and scalars using unbolded. This is because we are going to talk about scalars and vectors and all those things in this particular today's lecture, as well as in week 1. Week 2 onwards, I am not going to distinguish between scalars and vectors. It's just way too much effort, and you will know from the context. Just when we are new, you don't understand from the context, so that's why I am going to use that. Okay, so the vector, when I write with hand, I am going to represent it as x bar, and scalars I am going to represent it as okay, and this is an n dimensional vector. Why? Because it's an ordered list of n scalars. Okay, so let's say if the vector was 1 2, this basically means something that is 1 in the x direction, 2 in the y direction. So this basically means it's this particular point. Okay, so the 1 2 is the point that I have marked as x in the 2-dimensional space. Okay, this particular vector has both a direction as well as a size. Okay, the size of this vector that we have studied, and that is not just one way of defining size, there are multiple ways of defining size. The size that we have studied so far is square root of 1 square plus 2 square, or square root of 5, that is the size. And to represent the direction, we just connect that point to the origin with a line. Okay, that is how we have studied representing a vector, right? all of you have done that. Okay. Now, how do you get this? This is what is called a 2 norm of a vector, and how we are going to get this is just we are going to multiply vector with itself. Okay. So, this is nothing but 1 plus 4, okay, that is going to be represented by x bar transpose multiplied by x. Okay. And again you have learnt transposing and all that. For this entire course, when I talk about a vector, I would mean a column vector. An n dimensional vector means it has n rows and one single column, okay, consistently. I am not going to define this as a flat vector at all. It is always going to be a tall guy, it is always going to be a pencil guy, okay, and this will always be represented as x transpose. Okay. That is the convention that we are going to use for this entire course. Matrix. A matrix is n number of rows, p number of columns. Okay. So, it has n multiplied by p scalars arranged in rows and columns. In addition to that, so sometimes we do not teach this in 11th and 12th, but definitely we teach this in undergrads, that each column itself forms a column vector. Okay. So, each column is a column vector. So, we can represent our A as let us say a column vector W1 bar, W2 bar and so on up to WP bar. So, there are P column vectors. Each of the column vectors is an n dimensional vector. Okay. So, column vector W1 is nothing but A11, A21 and so on up to AN1. Okay. Or we can write Wi is nothing but A1i, A2i up to ANi, I going from 1 to P. Okay. This is how we have represented. Okay. Just this is just a recap of stuff. Okay. Yeah, we won't drop the boldface. We will keep the boldface for this course. As I said, all vectors are assumed to be column vectors. Row vectors will simply be a transpose. Okay. Linear combination of vectors. Let us say you have vectors x1 bar, x2 bar and so on up to let us say xp bar. What is linear combination of these vectors? Yeah. So, let us say if y bar is alpha 1 x1 bar plus alpha 2 x2 bar and so on up to alpha p xp bar. Okay. Let me not put it this way. So, this is a linear combination when alpha i's are scalars. Okay. Alpha i's can be 0 or non-zero, positive, negative, they are all real scalars. Okay. That is the linear combination. What is linear independence? When will vectors x1, x2 up to xp be called linearly independent? Right. Okay. So, that is one way when none can be written as linear combination of others. Okay. So, if I have x1 bar as 1 2, x2 bar as 2 4, are they linearly independent? They are not, right, because x1 bar, x2 bar is just x1 bar multiplied by 2. If it is 2 3, linearly independent? Yes. If I have x3 equal to 17, 21 or 17 and minus 21, are x1 bar, x2 bar, x3 bar linearly independent? No, why not? Yeah, that's right. Okay. The maximum number of independent vectors can be equal to n, the dimensionality of vectors. You cannot have more than n linearly independent vectors. Okay. You can always find alpha 1 and alpha 2 such that x3 is alpha 1 x1 bar plus alpha 2 x2 bar. Okay. How we can write this? We can write this as x1 bar x2 bar multiplied by alpha 1 alpha 2. Okay. This guy is nothing but 1 2 2 3. Okay. Because 1 2 2 3 is invertible, alpha 1 and alpha 2 is going to be unique. Okay. And any vector x3 can be represented as a linear combination of two linearly independent vectors. Okay. So, if you have n dimensional space, this example you had 2 dimensional space. If you had n dimensional space, then you can have at most n linearly independent vectors. If you have n plus 1 vectors, they are definitely at least one of them is going to be linearly dependent on the rest, or can be expressed as linear combination of the rest. Okay. So, let us consider another case. What happened when you had the vectors 1 2 and 2 4? When you had the vectors 1 2 and 2 4, they were basically collinear. So, this was 1 2 and this was 2 4. Okay. Because two of them were on the same line, okay, therefore, they were not linearly independent. So, let us before we talk about the vector spaces and span of vectors, which one of you already happened to mention a few minutes back, let us talk about the rank of a matrix. Okay. So, the reason for this linear independence is because if you form a matrix, let us say A, which was x1 bar, x2 bar, okay. If the rank of this matrix was equal to 2 or was equal to n, then these were linearly independent. Okay. If the rank was not equal to n, then they are not linearly independent, right. Rank of the matrix is going to be equal to number of linearly independent vectors in that matrix. Is actually a little bit more concept wise about the rank. Okay. A matrix has a row rank as well as a column rank. The column rank is going to be number of linearly independent column vectors, row rank is number of linearly independent row vectors. There is another theorem which says that the row rank of a matrix is always equal to its column rank. Okay. So, when we had the 3 vectors 17 and minus 21, right. So, when we had the 3 vectors, in that case we had x1 bar, x2 bar, x3 bar, this one was 1 2 2 3 17 and minus 21. Okay. The rank of this matrix can only be 2, it cannot be greater than the number of the lower between number of rows and number of columns. Okay. So, therefore, the rank of this was 2, this was the row rank which is also the column rank. So, the column rank was also 2. which means you can have at most 2 linearly independent vectors. Whether you talk about this from algebra viewpoint or geometry viewpoint, same concept. 3 vectors, for them to be linearly independent, the 3 vectors cannot lie in the same plane. But if the space is a 2-dimensional space, you cannot have the third vector to be out of plane, it has to lie in the same plane, therefore, they are not linearly independent. That is the geometric interpretation. Algebraically, this is how you can interpret it. Okay. And the thing that goes behind this is the theorem that the row rank is always equal to the column rank. Okay. Now, where does the row rank and column rank kind of feature in, or where does the difference between a row rank and a column rank feature in? We will come to that in week 1. Just to give you an idea where it will feature in is to figure out whether or not these are the maximum number of linearly independent vectors or, and so on, and therefore, what is going to be the span of those vectors and all that. And that brings me to the next concept, vector spaces and span. We will formally define vector spaces and span in the next week, but we will talk about the span of a vector. Okay. So, if you have, let us say, vectors x1, x2 and x3 bar, okay, then span is all possible linear combinations of these 3 vectors. Okay. That is the span of the vectors. Okay. Now, because these 3 vectors were in that a 2-dimensional plane, the span of these 3 vectors is the entire 2-dimensional plane. If we go to the previous slide where I showed this, the 2 vectors were 1, 2 and 2, 4, what is the span of those vectors? That line. Okay. The line 1, 2 is that span, because if you want any point outside of that line, you cannot get that as a linear combination of those 2 vectors. Okay. So, let us say if x1 bar was 1, 2 and x2 bar was 2, 4, then the linear combination alpha 1, 1, 2 plus alpha 2, 2, 4 is going to be equal to alpha 1 plus 2 alpha 2, 2 alpha 1 plus 4 alpha 2, which is going to be equal to alpha 1 plus 2 alpha 2 and 2 times alpha 1 plus 2 alpha 2. So, it is going to lie on that line. And again, I mean, I am sure you have done this, we are just formalizing this a little bit. Most of you would have done span as well, but in case you have not done the span, next week we will cover it once again. Okay. If A is a square matrix and if A is a n dimensional square matrix, okay, and rank of A is equal to n, then its inverse exists, and the inverse has the property A inverse A equals A inverse equal to identity, right. And all of these statements are equivalent. Again, you know that inverse of a matrix exists, matrix is non-singular, rank of A is n, determinant of A is non-zero. So, let us talk about rules of matrix well, I do not know to go over the rules of matrix multiplication, but let us say if our x bar was 1, 2, what is x bar multiplied by x bar? Yeah? No, you cannot multiply x bar with itself. Yeah, rules of matrix multiplication, the inner dimensions should be commuted. What is x transpose? X transpose is 5. Okay, x transpose is 1 2 1 2, which is equal to 1 2 1, sorry 2 4. Okay, that is this x transpose x, we had looked at it earlier, that is 5. Why? It is 1 2 1 2, which is 5, and same rules apply for larger matrices also. Okay. Let us say our A was AB, CD and X was PQ. Okay. Then AX will be what? AB, CD, PQ. So, that is going to be AP plus BQ, CP plus DQ, right? You know this. Okay. You can factorize or whatever a matrix into sub matrices, okay, and these rules that I showed over here also hold for these guys. So, let us say if this was this A bar was, let us say A11, A12, A21, A22. Okay. Let us say A11, A12, A21, A22 themselves are matrices, sub matrices, okay, and then let us say you had x1 bar and x2 bar, the product of this is going to be A11 x1 bar plus A12 x2 bar and A21 x1 bar plus A22 x2 bar. Okay. What we mean by that? Let us take an example. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, and let us take x1 this as say 1 minus 1 2, okay, and let us say this is y1 y2 y3, right. So, what I mean by, let us say we split this like this, okay, and we split this like this. So, do this full multiplication and get, for example, your y1, and you try to get your y1 by calculating like this. Maybe you want to try that, and you will see that both the y1s are going to be exactly equal. So, your A11, let's look at A11 x1 bar plus A12 x2 bar. Okay, so I don't know whether you guys covered this particular part earlier in your undergrad or before that or not, but this is something that will be quite a bit useful, at least in the later half of this course, but maybe even earlier than that. Okay. This is how we concatenate matrices, this is how we factorize, well, not factorize, I can't remember the correct name for that, but this is partition, yeah. This is how we partition the matrices, this is how we concatenate the matrices in order to do a whole lot of things in MPC, or for that matter in control. So, for example, if you want to do a disturbance rejection, and it is a measured disturbance, you might concatenate the input matrices with the measured disturbances to make a larger matrix, and then use the same concepts in order to do this. So, we are going to use this quite a bit. So, let us do this. A11 x1 is 1 2 4 5 multiplied by 1 minus 1 plus 3 6 multiplied by 2. Okay. See what you get from this, what value of y1 you get, and directly from here what value of y1 you get, then compare, right. So, this guy full multiplication is going to give you 1 minus 2 plus 6, that is going to be 5, 4 minus 5, again that is minus 1, plus 12 is 11, 7 minus 8, that is minus 1, plus 18 is 17. If we look at this, we are going to get 1 minus 2 is minus 1 plus 6, 4 minus 5 is minus 1 plus 12, which is equal to 5, 11, which is same as we had over here. So, just to recap, the way we were able to do these matrix multiplication, if instead of this being scalar, if we partition it into matrices of appropriate sizes, not arbitrary matrices, but the matrices of appropriate sizes, then we will still get this result. Okay. What I mean by matrices of appropriate choices, can't do this. Okay. In that case, you won't be able to multiply A12 with x2. You will be able to multiply A11 with x1 because x1 is a scalar. Okay. But A12 you can't multiply by x2 because 2 by 1 cannot be multiplied by a 2 by 1 matrix, yeah, right, you know all of that. Okay. So, as long as your partitioning is meets the laws of matrix multiplication, you will be able to do this. Okay. That is the main thing that you need to be careful about. That is one of the places where lot of times students make mistakes. Okay. Yeah, we just took this example. Okay. And this is the last part. So, how you know the definition of eigenvalues and eigenvectors, right? So, the question is, how do you compute eigenvalues? You know this, right? Yeah. So, you will take this on the left hand side. So, A V minus lambda V equal to 0 bar, or you can say A minus lambda I V bar equal to 0 bar. Okay. This is the way, and so either V bar is 0 bar, or for V bar to be not a 0 bar, determinant of A minus lambda I should be 0, or lambda I should have rank less than n. Okay. So, determinant of A minus lambda I equal to 0 will basically give you a nth order polynomial. This nth order polynomial will have exactly n roots. This nth order polynomial is called the characteristic equation. Okay. So, the characteristic equation will be of the form lambda n minus 1 lambda n plus a0 lambda n minus 1 plus a1 lambda to the power n minus 2 and so on up to a n equal to 0. That is called the characteristic equation. Okay. Because it is an nth order polynomial, it has exactly n roots. The roots can be repeated, they can be real or complex conjugate pairs. All of these are possible. Okay. Yeah. So, we talked about that a matrix A, which is n by n matrix, has exactly n eigenvalues. Okay. Eigenvalues must satisfy the characteristic equation. I mean, that's obvious because that's how we calculate eigenvalues. Eigenvalues we are calculating as roots of characteristic equation, and if they are roots of characteristic equation, they also satisfy that. What I will talk about next week is, and importance of that is, each matrix also satisfies its own characteristic equation, okay, and that's called Cayley-Hamilton theorem. Okay. Eigenvalues can be all unique, or there could be repeated eigenvalues, can be real, or can come in complex conjugate pairs. Okay. If V is an eigenvector, then any scalar combination is also an eigenvector, or any scalar multiple of V is also an eigenvector. So, for example, if it is a V multiplied by lambda V, if you multiply on both sides by alpha, and then you can write it as a alpha V bar equal to lambda alpha V bar. So, if V bar is an eigenvector, then alpha V bar is also an eigenvector. Usually from this point on, when we talk about eigenvectors, we will talk about vectors whose dimension, whose size is 1, which basically means that its 2 norm equal to 1, or V transpose V equal to 1. Okay, this is just for convenience, but if V is an eigenvector, then alpha V is also an eigenvector. So, that finishes our recap of linear algebra, okay, except this matrix partitioning part and possibly the concept of vector spaces and span. Everything else, I am sure everybody has done it. If some concepts were not very obviously clear, then please go back and recap your material. If you want to read ahead, please read ahead about vector spaces and span and about eigenvalues, eigenvectors. Okay.